Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Tedd Huff. He's both the host of Fintech Confidential and also the founder of Diamond D3. Welcome, Tedd. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Donna. It's exciting to be here and to share a lot of the things that we talk about on the podcast, as well as a lot of things that I have discussions with a number of clients around the globe.
This is a bit of role reversal for you today, huh?
That it is. It feels a little different to be on this side of the camera and on this side of the table to answer questions versus ask them.
Tedd, to get us started, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself, your background in the payments industry, and the work that you do both at Fintech Confidential and Diamond D3?
Yeah. So I've as I like to call it, is that I fell into fintech nearly over 20 years ago, knowing a little bit of just enough about technology to get myself into trouble. And then just to continue to go down a path of learning everything from small startups at 4 people, going public with a handful of companies, and working for some Fortune 500 companies along the way. I got the opportunity to learn both domestically and globally with cross-border payments, and really fell in love with fintech for the simple fact that it's always changing. You think you figured it out and something changes and you start all over from scratch. And I know that can be very defeating to a lot of people, but for someone like myself who loves to learn and to educate myself, it just felt like the right fit. I've tried to leave a couple times, but I always get pulled right back in.
Well, it sounds like it's where you belong then. So
Yes.
we're basically taking a look at the trends and the innovation that's happening in the payments industry today. And we just kind of want to boil it down for our audience. Tedd, what would you say is the most notable trend in the payments industry today?
Oh man, choosing one is so hard for me because there are at least 10 or 12 that are really making things change in the overall payments ecosystem. You know, one of them that really stands out, and especially now with the way that the interest rates are changing and all of these different things, really is the buy now, pay later, and which is essentially a layaway for e-commerce. Instead of paying for the item up front, the customer pays it off over via installment plans. And typically we think about it as being a completely different payment form, but it doesn't end up being that way a lot of times. It's either their debit card, their credit card, or they're using a bank, using their bank account via ACH or something like that to really pull it out. Give you an idea, in 2020, 8% of global e-commerce purchases were made with a buy now, pay later service, like Afterpay, Klarna, PayPal, KistPay, Sezzle. And recently, with Apple's latest announcement, they've decided to join the program as well. Now, that figure is actually forecasted. You think 8% is big growth, especially when you start talking banking. But that figure is forecasted by the end of next year, and this is recently too, is to grow by over 26%.
Wow.
And then compounded annually over that. Now, what that does is it makes buy now, pay later the fastest growing payment type globally over the next 5 years. Now, we're thinking of a lot of things you're seeing in the stock market where Affirm and other prices have come down, and in some cases as high as 95%. But as the rates go up, it is seen that potentially and very likely that the demand for buy now, pay later, with the interest not being borne by the consumer, that is going to fuel that significantly as well, which is really pulling into that 26% compound annual growth rate over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. As the interest rates increase, consumers are looking at paying significant amounts of interest if they're using credit. So it's a great option. Well, so we talked about the most notable trend. Let's talk about the biggest opportunity for organizations that process payments.
Yeah, and I feel like a broken record sometimes because what we've gone through in the last 2 years, the pandemic really shifted people's perceptions of what could be done digitally and has really driven the accelerated adoption of technologies that payment organizations now have customers who are embracing the change. For so long, the biggest hurdle was getting consumer adoption. I remember going way, 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 way back when the tap to pay first came out and no one would use it. Everybody was like, I don't understand why I wouldn't just take my card out of the wallet and swipe it at the point of sale. Why not do that? What tapping doesn't save me anything. But now in card present or brick and mortar type businesses, that has become the norm, more commonly used than the swipe. Now, the chip has made a dent into that as well, but the tap to pay has really increased. Not only that, but customers are looking for other solutions to speed up the process, to give them choices and the flexibility to conduct commerce in the ways that they want to. And not only the expectations of choices being there, but their expectations of digitization has increased substantially as well. And it's not just for payments. They've started to expect that for the entire experience, including customer support, not only to be digitized, but to be full service. Mm-hmm. You know, we've in the past said digital support and digital service is a subset of our human interaction. And that's really gone on its head over the last couple of years. And not only is it digital interaction important through chats and chat bots and maybe a handful of other intelligent ways of managing that, the consumers and customers are really expecting it to be self-service. It's kind of funny. They've gotten to a point where they don't want to talk to somebody unless it's absolutely necessary. And I'll be one of those people because today I wanted to change my flight for a trip that I'm going on. And it told me I had to call in and talk to somebody. I would have loved to have been able to do it over my mobile app, but it said I had to call into somebody. Now I did this earlier this morning, I think it was around 8:30 this morning I called in, and they told me the soonest that they could reach back out to me was 3:45 this afternoon. So if I were able to get that full service experience remotely, I would be a much happier customer, and you and I would not be talking about the fact that I have to wait till 3:45 for somebody to call me for me to change a time on a flight.
It makes so much sense. We want that immediate gratification, right? We want to be able to just close the loop and be done with it so we can move on with the rest of our day and not have to waste a lot of time in the process. So I hear you.
Well, and what that's also done, Donna, is if you look at the value that we as humans, as consumers, as business people have placed on time has substantially increased as well. So time and efficiency. So any way that a payments processing organization can make it easier, faster, and more accurate, the more they're going to move forward.
That's great. I think that's going to be a key differentiator going forward as well, because consumers are going to look for financial institutions and, they're going to do business with the organizations that are able to serve them more quickly. So that was the biggest opportunity. What would you say is the greatest challenge for payments processing organizations?
Oh, well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, Donna. We talked about all of these opportunities that are out in the marketplace to digitize, to give better service, to do things faster, more efficiently. The biggest obstacle, the biggest problem that payments processing organizations are going to run into is choosing choosing what is it they're going to deliver, which of their customers are they going to deliver to first, and how are they going to make the biggest impact. I think that is the biggest obstacle or difficulty that a lot of these organizations are going to run into, because the way that we used to look at the strategy of approaching a market is completely different now than what it used to be 2, 3, 4 years ago. Heck, even this time last year, the way we were looking at things is so different. It'd be from a regulatory perspective, whether it be from an economic perspective, or even just overarching a personal relationship with the companies we do business with. They've all changed, and we're having to look at it strategically completely different than what we have in the past.
Yeah, it's sort of a matter of prioritizing, right? And clearing out the clutter. There's certainly a lot of trends that are competing for attention, and is trying to figure out what makes the most sense.
That there are.
Okay.
And it's not an easy choice to make.
No, and I'm glad I'm not in that position. So my final question for you is, if you could give one silver bullet piece of advice to payments processing organizations, what would that be?
Choose the right things to move forward with. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Realistically, the real silver bullet in all of this, everything that we've talked about today, is really listening to your customers, finding out what they're struggling with, and then solving that problem. Don't try and solve it for everybody. Try and solve it for that ideal customer of yours. And I'm pretty sure if you were to sit down and say, if I could only have one person as a customer, who would it be and what would I be doing for them? And if you do that, you can figure out what are the problems you need to solve, which then solves for the largest obstacle we just talked about, which then brings you back into the opportunities that are available for you in that marketplace, and then really starts to help you drive towards the trends that your business is running into. But I really feel like that voice of customer is the silver bullet that a lot of times we leave out. And let me be super clear on this. Just because a customer asked for something doesn't mean that that's what they really want. We have to be very clear in understanding that they may be telling to you how they want to solve the problem based upon their understanding of the problem and potential solutions. And really, instead of listening to what they want you to do, listen to what it is that they're trying to resolve. But that is the silver bullet that I see time and time again that works fantastic.
I think that's great advice. That really helps to kind of narrow the focus. Thank you so much for that. So, Ted, before I let you go, I want to make sure that our audience knows how to learn more about Fintech Confidential and also the services that you provide. Would you mind sharing with them how they can get in touch with you or learn more?
No problem. We have Fintech Confidential across all the social platforms. So if you just search for Fintech Confidential on any of the platforms, you're going to find it. We're Fintech Confidential on LinkedIn. We're Fintech Confidential on Facebook. We're Fintech Confidential on Instagram. We're everywhere with that.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Ted, for your time today. Really appreciate your insights. And I just want to thank everybody for watching. Bye now.
Thanks, Donna.